Welcome to the Goddess Show podcast, voices of visionary women, inspiring female leaders by interviewing amazing guests to encourage us all to rise up. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to the Goddess Show podcast, voices of visionary women, inspiring female leaders. And I'm beyond honored and humbled and excited to introduce Shelli Brunswick to you today. Welcome, Shelli, to the Goddess Show.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so honored to be with you down under.
Fantastic. Now, I have to tell our listeners and viewers about you, Shelli, because it's just incredible. You are such a superstar. Shelli Brunswick is a global motivational speaker, futurist, and CEO of SB Global LLC, a former US Air Force officer and COO of Space Foundation. She empowers audiences worldwide by bridging space innovation and with leadership, entrepreneurship, and personal growth. Fantastic. Her acclaimed book series, What Space Got to Do with It, helps individuals activate purpose and thrive in any orbit. Now, this is really exciting. We're talking about space. How fantastic. So, Shelli, welcome again. And let me start by asking you the very first question, which is to tell us a little bit about your own personal inspiring story and any challenges you have overcome on your way to success.
Absolutely. Well, again, thank you so much for inviting me. I'm so honored to be with you and your listeners. And I always like to say my journey has 4 chapters. And I'm sure that's like many of your listeners out there. Right out of high school, I didn't have college money and I really didn't know what I wanted to do had I gone to college. So I enlisted in the US Air Force right out of high school, got stationed in Turkey and Germany. I went to school at night so I could start working on my college degree. I earned money to go to college, and I was classified a personnel specialist. So I was human resources, HR. And after 12 years as an enlisted airman, instead of separating, I applied to become an officer in the Air Force because I had completed my college education. And when I was accepted to become an officer in the Air Force, I became a space acquisition or space procurement officer.
How
So
exciting.
that actually started that 25-year career in the space industry. And I had amazing assignments during that time. I taught at Defense Acquisition University, taught about space project management, worked on the US Capitol Hill as a policymaker, worked in program offices, doing space programs from rockets and ground stations and satellites. And after an amazing 29-year career in the Air Force, I knew it was time to pivot and move on to the next chapter.
Okay,
And I
you're
retired.
preempting our second question. Will I will I ask you now? Yes. Can you share
Okay.
a moment in your life when you had to redefine your purpose or pivot your path, and what helped guide that transition? Am I right?
Absolutely.
Where you are?
Absolutely. So you heard that great first part, which is like 2 chapters, that enlisted airman and then officer. And then when I retired from the Air Force, I really had to pivot into the commercial sector, leaving the military behind where, we're all wearing uniforms, we're all, in line, have the same values and ethos, and go into the corporate world. And I was fortunate to become the chief operating officer at an organization called Space Foundation, a
Wow.
U.S. nonprofit that does business internationally, puts on one of the world-class space events called Space Symposium, does education, kindergarten through 12th grade. But again, as you can tell from being a military officer, making that pivot into being a C-suite
Mm,
executive for a nonprofit that's doing global business
mm.
really opened that aperture of pivot, complementing my military background with that civil, commercial, and international space, as well as that I had leadership from the military, but also leading a very dynamic and diverse team, and then building partnerships and relationships globally. So that's really that third chapter and a big pivot and transition for many military service members, whether they're in the US or Australia, to come into the commercial sector.
Just on pivoting there and going to a commercial space, how was that transition for you?
It was amazing. I mean, one of the things I'll say is part of my preparation was my last 5 years in the Air Force, I worked on Capitol Hill as a legislative liaison. So I wore civilian clothes to work. I interacted with members of Congress or their staff. So I was already involved with civilians, we would call
Stakeholders.
them.
Yeah.
Yes. So I was already interacting at that level. So
Mhm.
transitioning into that, retirement and then into the corporate world was different. But one of the challenges was, I still, even though I was working on Capitol Hill, I still went back to the Pentagon. I got to interact with other military people,
Right.
similar people, similar backgrounds. When you are out of the military and in the corporate world, everybody has a different background, a different story. And so, one of the biggest skills I learned from that pivot is the importance of listening.
Right. Yes. Yes. Very important. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that with us. So tell me, I want to ask you something. Why do you think you are so passionate about what you do?
Well, I think after a full career, you really start to develop what makes you happy, what gives you passion,
Yeah.
what drives you, what makes you get up every morning and want to get after it. And after 29 years in the Air Force, wonderful career, was ready to pivot. In 9 years at Space Foundation, I knew I was ready to pivot because I had a passion. I could see that there were so many opportunities in the space industry, whether as entrepreneurs or rocket scientists or in the supply chain. But the biggest challenge was many people didn't realize that they could come into the space industry or be an entrepreneur for the space industry. And so my passion was to create that opportunity so that all citizens around the world could find pathways to what they really wanted to do. And if that meant coming to the space industry, I could help facilitate that.
Fantastic. So, on that, I'm just wondering if you can share with our listeners and viewers perhaps a couple or a handful or a few of those opportunities as an example in the space industry.
Absolutely. So, one of the most recent things I did was a partnership in Togo, Africa, where I collaborated with another individual there, and
Mm,
we put on a program called Women Tech Creators and Women Tech Entrepreneurial Creators. And it was designed for 20 women entrepreneurs to come into a 2-day program where I taught about leadership from my book series. And I had a partner there who talked about technology, drone technology, creating a business, using your cell phone, creating media and tools and applications, and empowering those women to become powerful entrepreneurs. But then we also charged them to go and help their community, to help empower
fantastic.
others.
Sounds
So
wonderful.
it was an amazing program. We did it in partnership with the US State Department through a program called the Mandela Washington Fellowship Program. So my partner in Lomé was a fellow for this program, and
Mhm.
then I was his US partner, and we created this program together. And then another program just recently in Australia. I came down and
Really?
visited you,
Oh,
not in person, but in March of this year, I had the opportunity to go to Perth, Sydney, and Melbourne to do education and outreach to high school and college students about opportunities in the space industry and technology and STEM and help inspire them to pursue pathways that create that economic development. So I love those activities. And those are just two examples of what I've done this year.
that's fantastic. I wish I'd known. It would have been great to meet you, but I'm sure we shall meet in the future. Wonderful, wonderful work. And especially I think because I know that in the past, women in technology have been, we've they do need to be empowered to enter into that arena. So I think it's wonderful what you're doing. So my next question to you, Shelli, is what do you think have been your biggest challenges so far, and how have you overcome them?
So I think one of my challenges, and I see it a lot when I talk to people, men and women,
Hmm.
is that sometimes we have self-doubt. And here's an example. When I was transitioning out of the Air Force to go retire, the job description came across my desk for the chief operating officer at Space Foundation, and I said out loud in my office, and there were other people because it's one of those offices
You
with
mean
8 people.
heard?
I was heard, and I said, "Huh, I wonder if I should apply for this." And another woman in my office, Vanessa, said, "Never disqualify yourself from something you haven't been offered." And famous words. How often do we disqualify ourselves? How often do we say, "Oh, I'm not going to apply for that award. I'm not going to apply for that job. I'm not going to apply for that grant or that program or that scholarship because I'm not going to get it. They want somebody else." That
That
self-talk.
inner critic.
Yes. And so I think that's I highlighted my example when I applied for the chief operating officer position. I almost didn't apply for it because I
Mm.
wasn't sure that fit the mold, right? Sometimes we get very comfortable in our comfort zone. And at that
Yes,
time, I was government affairs. And so I was looking for a job. Should I be a government affairs or I was a program manager? Never really thought to look at C-level positions outside of that industry. So it was a wonderful opportunity. I'm so grateful to Vanessa. I'm still friends with her today.
that's fantastic.
And
So good
again,
advice.
just just a reminder, never disqualify yourself from something you haven't been offered.
I think
Go
that's
for it.
awesome. I think that's absolutely awesome because actually you're fearing a fantasy. It hasn't happened yet because you haven't even tried. So, yes, great advice. Thank you. So, tell me, how do you stay grounded while working on such global visionary on such a, excuse me, global visionary scale? What daily practices help you stay aligned with your purpose?
So I think the first thing everyone has to know is we really need to be mindful
Mm,
because there are so many distractions coming in. We need to really know what our purpose is, where we want to go, what we want to do, what are the return on investment, whether that's for family or business or personal health and good health and habits. And so really being mindful of what those priorities are so you can filter out the distractions. And then I'm really fortunate that I have a good support system. And that's another thing people need, whether it's a good network, family members. I have a great husband. He's my chief operating officer,
is
also my
it?
chief editor. So if you find something in the book, let me know. I'll let him know you
Okay, it's
didn't
his
catch it.
fault. Right.
Mhm.
Fantastic.
So be mindful, know what
Mm,
your goals are,
mm,
try to sift through those distractions and then have a good support system. I'm
mm.
fortunate having a good husband, but maybe you have good friends. Maybe there's some good organizations in your community that you can join, the chambers or business networks or organizations through the university or incubators that can help you stay focused and, give you confidence when maybe you're feeling that self-doubt coming.
I think that's really, really, really wonderful in terms of, I think what you're in summarizing what you've said is keep your eye on the prize, stay true to your vision. I mean, it's a bit cliche, but, and also, we can't do it alone. We do need a support system, don't we? So thank you so much.
Absolutely. Nobody goes to space alone. For
No.
every person who goes to space, there's thousands of people behind them that made that mission happen. So, just like you, no one goes to space alone. No one accomplished their goals, their vision, their dreams alone.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you for that. Now, tell me, how do you keep motivated through difficult times?
Well, I think the biggest thing to do is again, what is your goal? Where do you want to be?
Mm,
Everything has ups and downs. Nobody's life is straight up and to the right, as we would say in
that's
program
right.
management.
That's right.
It's more like a sine wave. We have ups and downs. But what you have to remember is some days you're going to make big strides towards your goals, and some days maybe it's a small stride,
And that's
and
okay.
that's okay. And some days it might just be, some days I just take a day off. Like,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, as you can imagine, we really don't ever take days off. We're always thinking. But
Yeah,
some
that's
days it's
true.
like, you know what? I'm not going to get on the computer. I'm going to just relax. I'm going to go for a ride with my husband. We're going to watch American football. So you also have to take those moments where maybe it's not a great day and it's okay to take a step back, have some ice cream, and enjoy a day with your husband or your friend, or go out in nature, go for a hike, enjoy something you love to do.
I think that's really great advice. Thank you so much, Shelley. So tell me, would it be my next question actually is what is the best advice you've received recently? Would it be the advice that you just mentioned? Or would it be something else?
Wow, I get so many great insights from people. But what I'm going to say to your audience today is sometimes you're thinking about things, and if that thing keeps gnawing at you over time, take one step towards it. Take that first step. And that's what happened with me with starting my company. 9 years at Space Foundation, I loved it. But the last few years, I really just felt that calling, that desire to be out there, being a motivational speaker, being an author, being a futurist, being a strategic advisor. I just kept feeling that pull. And,
Mm,
and it was just one step at a time. Should I think about writing a book. Well, what would I write? What would my talks be on? Do I need to start a company? And just start doing one small step today that can lead you to where you think you want to be. And so just start.
Just start. And I think one step at a time is an important thought and message as well.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. So, what advice would you give to women specifically who feel called to do something bold but don't know where to start?
Well, just start is the first step.
Mm.
If you know what you want, maybe you brainstorm, but then the next step is who can help you? Are
Mm.
there some programs? Are there some mentors? So in the US, we have some programs where you can find a mentor through the Small Business Administration to help you if you want to be an entrepreneur. This week is World Space Week, so I'm going to date
Wow.
your webinar a little bit. So World Space Week is always 4 to 10 October. They had a program this year called Astropreneur, and I was a mentor for that. So there's programs there. There's programs with Women Tech Network. You can check that out. So there's a Space Generation Advisory Council. Maybe there's a chamber business chamber of business in your community. Maybe they have a mentorship program. Maybe some incubators have programs. So find somebody, find a support network, find those like-minded individuals and start bouncing your ideas off them until you're ready. And again, I didn't start my business overnight. It was something I was thinking about for several years before
Mm.
I started the step. And even after I started my business, it really took 6 to 8 months to figure out what is my message? What am I really trying to accomplish? How do I articulate that to people? Because it's not just enough to have a dream and a vision. You have to be able to
Put it to
communicate
action.
with others.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, put it to action, but you have to bring people with you.
Yes.
And the only way you can bring people with you is you have to be able to share it and communicate it.
That's right. I think it's important to have that, to reach for your and find your people, like-minded people. And there are always like-minded groups around. So that's really great, great advice. Thank you so much, Shelley. My next question is, and I really wanted to share now all the amazing things you're doing. What are your current goals and what is next on the agenda for you?
Well, one of the short-term goals is my next book in the series is coming out in October 2025 called What Space Got to Do with It, An Interstellar Guide to Success. So the first book was What Space Got to Do with It, 10 Life Lessons for Personal Growth. But the second book really has four core principles: leadership, awareness, access, and action. And
Fantastic.
it really centers on those. And I have a great Australian in this book, um, Hannah Ashford, who is the one of the co-founders and executive director of the Carmen Project, and they
Oh,
have a wonderful fellowship program for so not only for Aussies but globally. You could check out one of your fellow Aussies and check out that
I
program,
love
the
the way you
Carmen.
say houses. It's
I don't know if I'm saying it right, but
that's awesome.
just like
Fantastic.
our good friends next door, the Kiwis. But
Kiwi.
anyway, so the Interstellar Guide to Success. And then I'm already interviewing the thought leaders that will be in the next book that will come out in 2026 called What Space Got to Do with It? Out of This World Leadership. And I'm going to focus on three main principles of leadership: inspiration, authenticity, and gratitude.
Oh, I love those. I absolutely love those. So tell me, how many books in total have you published so far?
Two so far, but next year will be three, and they are available in Australia thanks to Amazon. So you can get them
You,
globally on
Amazon.
Kit. I know Amazon's wonderful through either the ebook or the six, or you can order an actual paperback.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Our listeners and viewers will really, really benefit from those. Anything else? Any other goals you want to talk about?
Well, I will share. You're the first one I'm sharing it with,
Really? Is this exclusive? No.
exclusive to you. Um, every year in Las Vegas, there's a program called the Consumer Electronics Show,
Uh-huh.
CES. It is a global thing that brings together technology from around the world. It takes up almost all of Las Vegas. And I have been selected to be an innovation judge and judge startup companies and their technology. So I'm excited to do that. And for anybody coming up to see us at Consumer Electronics Show, 6 to 9 January in Las Vegas, let me know and we'll get together and have coffee.
Okay, to our listeners and viewers, this is a very important announcement. If you're in that space, make sure you don't miss this. Thank you so much, Shelli. That's really special. So, next up, I think I'm going to ask you if you could offer one universal truth from your journey, amazing, amazing journey, to every listener today, what would it be?
It's the first chapter in my book, and it's take advantage of every opportunity. And a lot of times, opportunities look like work. They are many times volunteer or hard projects, but those opportunities can open doors to the next thing. I shared with you how I was an enlisted airman right out of high school, didn't have my college education, but I was able to take advantage of tuition assistance through the Air Force and go to school at night and on the weekends and give up that free time with my friends who were going out and doing things. But it allowed me to complete my college education, and that allowed me to apply to become an officer and then be part of the space industry. So, and that was a long journey, 12 years of going to school on nights and on the weekends. So, what I say is take advantage of opportunities. They might look like work, it might look like taking on a hard project, volunteering for an organization that helps you fill in a skill set that maybe you don't have on your resume, but those things will pay off in the long run
That's
and
right.
open up new doors for you.
That's right. I think it's wonderful advice. Thank you so much. And I think the message there too is it doesn't happen overnight. Quite often we think, oh, all really successful people, how did they do it? And it seems like they just popped out of nowhere, but it doesn't happen that way. And I think when you're really passionate about something, it takes the work out of it, doesn't it? Because you absolutely love what you're doing and you're passionate about it. So that's a really great message. Thank you so much. Next up, I want to ask you if you're currently running, any promos, contests, giveaways, anything that you'd like to offer our listeners and viewers.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing that's going on is since it's World Space Week, in addition to the book coming out in the next few days, is I have a webinar each day during World Space Week where I interviewed people that are in the book. So that individual I talked about, Hannah Ashford from the Carmen Project, she's
Fantastic.
in a she's in a webinar. So if you go to Shelli Brunswick YouTube, you can see all the webinars for the book launch and you can learn about those individuals, the former president of Mauritius, all the way to Simonetta de Bippo, the former director of the United Nations Office of Outer Space Affairs, and so many more. So right now, you can go to Shelli Brunswick YouTube. You can watch all those videos. You don't even have to buy the book, but the book will have a lot more details.
Yes, buy the book as well. So that brings us to my final question, and that is how do we connect with you?
Absolutely.
You
Well, similar
mentioned
to how you,
YouTube.
yes. Well, I'm on YouTube. I'm also, as you and I connected on LinkedIn. I love LinkedIn, the global connector for young professionals. If you're not on LinkedIn, get on LinkedIn, create a strong brand, fill it out so that when people look you up, they always look you up before they meet you. LinkedIn. I'm also on Instagram, so you can follow me on Instagram. And of course, I have a website, shellybrunswick.com, so you can go to the website. We're currently updating it so that it'll have the next book in the series, more details about it.
Fantastic. I wish you amazing success. And thank you so, so much for being on the show today. Shelli, it's been a true pleasure and joy. Um, Thank you. And bye for now.
Until next time, I'm
Till
Shelli
next
Brunswick,
time.
and I look forward to seeing you around the galaxy.
Yes. Bye, Shelli. Thank you for tuning in to the Gotta Show podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if you did, feel free to like, subscribe, share, and we look forward to seeing you next time.